Well, good morning, everyone. We changed campground a few days ago. We're on Sugarloaf Key now. We're at the KOA. This campground is very nice compared to the other one. This one's a lot nicer. It's got way more to do, and you're not as far from doing. Well, you're closer to Key West. I'll just put it that way. Pretty much where we were going to go to Marathon, the distance, we can be in Key West in the same amount of time. And of course, Duval Street's got all the bars and the shops and places we like to go because we enjoy Key West. We like to party and stuff. But this morning when I woke up, it was 59 degrees here on Sugarloaf, and it was a wind chill of 57. My mom, she lives up in Bradenton, and I think she said it got down to 30 degrees up there with the wind chill, so it was pretty cold. But you see the palm tree behind me, and it's nice blue skies. Right now it's I think it's like 65 degrees, but with the heat, it's probably the heat index. See the sun right here, right there. It feels like it's about 70. We're going to be going out tonight for New Year's Eve. We're going to take an Uber over and spend the whole night in Key West and party it up, see how busy it is. Got a lot of festivities going on, and we're going to see which ones we want to go to, where we want to be at when they drop the ball and all that fun stuff. Got my coffee. So actually it's mid-morning. It's 10:30. My girlfriend just woke up about 10. Since she don't work anymore, she worked at the factory. She had to get up at 3:30 in the morning, and she had to be clocked in by 4:45, and then she didn't clock out till 5:15 in the afternoon. So, and then she worked. It was 2/12s. You worked 2/12s. Then you got 2 days off. Then you had to work every other weekend. But she's glad she doesn't do that anymore. So, but had some people asking me more about the changes that were before '08, and then that changed after '08 happened. Now when I talk about these changes, a lot of this stuff, it didn't exactly happen in '08. It was like leading up to it and then right after it. One example was back then, I'm going to say this was 2000. This might have been 2007. If you had a credit card, and let's say, for just use a round number, that you had a $10,000 credit limit on it. Well, before they did the changes from the GFC into the '08, I just say '08. Like I said, it wasn't '08. It could have happened in 2011. I can't remember when they made all these changes. But let's say you had a credit card and you had a $10,000 credit limit on it. Well, back then, if you could use the credit, it was like a cash advance, but it wasn't a cash advance. It was more like a loan. Because what they would do is they would charge you, I think it was like $250. Let's just use that $10,000 limit for an example. So they would charge you like $250 to do the transaction. And then let's say they gave you $9,000 of that $10,000 credit limit. Well, then they charge you an interest rate, and it was way lower than a cash advance. And people could use that as basically like a personal loan. Now, of course, then it locked your card up where you couldn't use your card till that loan was paid in full. And as people were, like right now, as they would think, the gas prices back then were high compared to what we think $4 a gallon was like, it's been there, But back then, it was literally bankrupting people. I mean, the high gas and everything else kept going up. And like I was talking in the previous video, the fuel surcharges. But people were using those just to get by. They were taking out home equity lines of credit, which is, in short, a mortgage. It falls under a mortgage because you don't make that payment and they'll foreclose on your house. Whether you just took out $10,000 or anything, and let's say your house had been paid off and you took that out and you don't make your payment, they'd foreclose on you. But that was one thing that they did back then. they no longer do that with your credit cards. Now it's strictly cash advance, and you got to pay with a 30% interest. It's ungodly what they charge. Um, Another thing that they did was like for instance me, like with all my rentals, a lot of people that bought houses at the peak right around 2005 to 2006 because 2007 is when things started declining. But a lot of people that bought, like these investors that bought rental properties, and they could no longer get their return on income wasn't matching up, because at the same time, like they're doing right now, they skyrocketed our property taxes, and of course insurance went up and everything else, but they could no longer get the return on income from what they paid for it versus what they were paying in their loan, their escrows, meaning your taxes and your insurance. So what a lot of people did was they took all their rentals and they put them under a blanket mortgage. And a lot of houses, like I said, owed money, some didn't, and they took out what they could get, and they made a few payments on them, and then they just skipped. There was a lot of people that skipped out of the country, because when you leave the country, there's nothing they can do to you. I mean, there's nothing they can do. I mean, not unless you're not welcome in the country you go to. I will say Belize is a very friendly country. They don't extradite. That's just what I heard, But anyway, they would take out these blanket mortgages under, like, let's say 10 rental properties. They kept all that cash because they knew they couldn't sell the houses for that. And then they, like I said, they skipped out. They sent the money offshores and stuff like that. You can't do that anymore. The one downside to the blanket mortgages back then was you couldn't sell the property once it was in. If you had 10 and you wanted to sell 1 or 2, you couldn't. You had to completely pay the loan off to get them all freed up. But that was one thing they did. They don't do that anymore. It would have been handy for people like me, because I'm long-term. I like holding my properties. I enjoy the tax benefits of the depreciation and all that stuff. But that was another thing that, like I said, they did. Coming from a landlord, when I do my rent, I include water and trash. And here's why I include water. Because if the water is in the tenant's name and the tenant doesn't pay it, now back before '08, this is where everything changed again. Before '08, if you were delinquent on your water bill, as long as you made a minimum payment, I think it was like you had to pay like 10% of the bill and to keep it on. And they would do that for, I think, up to 3 months. And then if you didn't pay it, they would shut it off. Well, you would get these tenants. They would make the minimum payment just to keep their water on. And then by the time that they were done, they screwed the landlord out of not paying the rent. But by the time they would leave, hell, the water bill. This happened to me. That's why I changed it. One lady, her water bill got up to $410, and the city finally sent me a notice, me being a landowner. And I go up there and I'm like, well, why didn't you guys just shut her off? She's not paying the bill. And they said, well, we can't. I said, but that bill's going to fall back on me, and I'm not going to pay it because it's not my bill. And they said, well, it doesn't matter, because you don't pay your water bill, we'll send it to the auditor, and they'll put it on your tax assessment, so you're going to have to pay it anyway. So that's why I start leaving all the water in my name. That way I know it gets paid, because I know my local town, they charge 10% if you pay it late. And then trash, I just start leaving it included in the rent, because I had a set of tenants that he had the idea that he was going to take the trash into the dump himself. He was going to put it in the back of his truck. Well, I didn't know this at the time, and then the neighbors called the city, and the code enforcement, he got a hold of me, and he said, hey, he goes, I stopped over at your rental, and he was filling me in, and he goes, I'm going to give him a citation. I'm going to give you a citation because I own the property. And of course, I made them pay it. Well, I take it back. He gave me, I think it was like 10 days to get it out of there, and then I wouldn't have to have the citation. But I told him, I said from here on out I was going to include trash in all my rent, because that way it gets picked up every week and you don't get any complaints and stuff like that. But that's just some things that a couple things like I did that changed after '08, and I've just left it ever since. Another thing that changed was, people think, like a lot of guys that's made a lot of money in crypto, when they want to go buy a property and they're paying cash for it, and you got to show proof of funds. Well, they'll take money and go throw in their savings account or checking account just to show where it shows the account's got a lot of money in it. But you got to show where that money come from, because anything over $10,000, it gets pinged by the bank, and they got to tell the IRS about it. But you can't. Like back in the day, a lot of that shit was shady back then. A lot of these mortgage lenders were shady, because they got their payment for doing the mortgage. They get a percentage of the loan, because they're pretty much handling everything. But that was just a couple things that changed back then compared to now, and you'll see more changes with things when this, as this crash we're currently in, as it peaks and then it starts this downfall, because people try to learn from their mistakes, but a lot of that, it just gets repeated. They don't learn their lesson, like the ninja loans back then. That was what pretty much has happened with all the car loans now. There's ninja loans out there still. They've titled them something different, because a lot of people, that they're stating their income, and it's not true. A lot of them will state overtime, but overtime is not guaranteed. I know when I bought my first house, I worked, like I said, I worked for the prison system in Ohio, and we had overtime every week, but that wasn't allowed to include that because it was considered overtime, but that was years ago. But yeah, those are just some things that, like, I did. I made changes too, because I had to adjust with what was going on. I've been trying to keep track of the realtor. I always keep track of the MLS. I check realtor.com, Zillow, Redfin, and it's funny because, like, there was one that popped up this morning in Key West and said it had a $50,000 price increase, and it's already been on the market 6 months. They ain't gonna sell it. I mean, they're getting ready to pull it, or they're getting ready to take a loan out against it. Now, like I said, where my mom's at, there in Bradenton, it's not just the condo, the new condo law they got in Florida, with anything, I think it's 3 levels, anything over three stories high, they have to meet special reserves, so they keep the foundation and all that maintained. And of course, that's killed a lot of people on their prices. But where the hurricane come in there, where mom lives, back in the summer of 2024, have been last year. A lot of those people that didn't have property insurance, or the insurance didn't cover, it was inadequate insurance, and they still got for sale signs out in front of their property. There's tarps on roofs. One property in particular, and a park where my mom has a rental at, the entire side got ripped off, like all the siding, it ripped it down to nothing. They put a tarp on it, and it's been for sale. You're starting to see a lot of that more and more. We'll be out here for another, out here in the Keys till the 2nd. Then we head inland. So I'll be able to see a lot more. We're going to venture up to Fort Myers, and then we're going to head up to Bradenton, Sarasota, and I'll try to keep looks out on what I see around there, and we'll try to get out a little bit more, because I know Bradenton pretty good, because Mom living there, and I lived there briefly for about 5 months, about 20 years ago. But yeah, those are just some things that, like I said, they did them before '08. They changed. and you're going to see more changes again with things going on now compared to when they do these changes. I've been hearing a lot of talk on the news, talk radio, news sites I visit, but the income taxes, all that stuff's changing. I believe it was this year that overtime up to, I think it was $25,000 is non-taxable. Tips are non-taxable, so you're going to see a lot of people get quite some substantial refunds this coming tax season, which we're only a couple months away from. You'll start to see more spending in the economy. It'll last probably, I'm guessing, until May or June. You'll see a little spike in everything because there's more money being spent. As for those the tariff refunds, I don't know if we're going to get them. I don't foresee it. I don't. They talk. The government talks like that, but they never end up doing anything about it. I mean, if they do that, you might see the economy spike till maybe the mid or end of summer, and then of course it's gonna get decline like it is right now, probably even worse. Now, like I was telling you, the vacancy at the last park we was at, it was pretty hefty. The vacancy here, we've been walking around. It's, if you see behind me, if you can see the building back there. This park in particular got wiped out by Hurricane Ian back in 2017. They just finished getting it back up to standards about maybe not quite a year ago, and they built they're like a hotel rooms over here, but they're like apartments. They ran out. They built that. They redid this whole park. It's very nice, but this park in particular, it's. When we got here, like, it was full for Christmas, and then they left right afterwards. Was it Christmas when we get here? No, wait a minute. They all started leaving here 3 days ago, so yeah, right after Christmas. And now I'm going to say this park is maybe 70% filled. This is the only KOA I know that they do not give weekly rates, monthly rates, or seasonal. They charge by the day. They do not give any bonuses. Supposedly this park is owned by the corporation itself, not independently owned. We went to Key West, like I said, Saturday night, and it seemed busy because there was a cruise ship. Well, by 5 o'clock that cruise ship pulls out in Key West, so it thins out. And we did notice a lot of people had their kids there, but they were older kids, like teenagers. And me and my girlfriend was talking, and she said, it seems busy. I said, they brought their kids out for supper. I said, wait till they all go back, and then you're going to see the true busyness. And it wasn't busy at all. I'm going to say they might have been maybe 10% capacity everywhere. It was pretty dead. When we were here at Fantasy Fest, the local businesses were hoping for a big boom because things have been down so far, and money's been very tight. The tourism down here is just almost null and void, and they hired a bunch of staff on. And I've been talking to some managers and other staff where we get places we go. They laid off all those people right after Fantasy Fest, and a lot of those people were hoping to keep the jobs because they needed the money, which has led to a bunch of openings on like you go to on Facebook, like Key West Rentals, and it has, or the Lower Keys Rentals, and there is a ton of places they have open for rent. People looking for roommates because they're not able to make their payments. They're getting behind. They're trying anything they can do to try to stay afloat down here. But we'll see tonight how busy it is. But it's New Year's, and after New Year's, you don't have nothing until, I do believe, it's spring break. So that's March. I mean, how long can these businesses keep going until there's just you're robbing Peter to pay Paul to stay alive, and that can only last so long, because that will eventually catch up with you. looking forward to I'm looking forward to going inland. One downside I'm not looking forward to is all the no-see-ums, because when you're inland you got more, you're on land, not out here on an island, but you're on land, you get them no-see-ums. But it'll be, you're still in South Florida, so hopefully the weather ain't too bad. But I'm gonna hop off here. I hope you all enjoyed today's video. If I get time later before we head out, I'll make another one, just talking about this and that. So if not, if I don't make it, I hope you guys have a good, safe New Year's. Do not drink and drive, because they are out thick force. The sheriff was on the radio down here, the chief of police, and they're in Key West, and they're like, don't do it, because we'll end up catching you. And it's $100 Uber is a lot cheaper than a $10,000 DUI. Plus, you're looking at jail time and possibly losing your license, depending on what all happens. But hope you all enjoyed the content. Like my video, subscribe to my page. It gets my numbers up. Share it. I appreciate it. And thanks for watching.